Good evening, Dr. Maman and Dr. Luluan. I'm part of Group 17, which is composed of three members, as you can see. I'm Malay, Ilyej Makwakwa, and myself, Oton Bikiza. So, one of the learning outcomes of this semester is to illustrate and categorize seismic features on major geological features. So, in order to test that, we were assigned with a challenge, which was to identify bright spots in order to determine hydrocarbon potential in the Malay Basin. So before I start, I would like to explain what is a bright spot. Well, a bright spot is a high local amplitude seismic attribute anomaly, which can be used to identify the presence of hydrocarbon, and therefore is also known as a direct hydrocarbon indicator. It is used in hydrocarbon exploration by geophysicists. So what's the theory behind bright spot? Well, a bright spot primarily results from the high acoustic impedance contrast. So how does that happen? So when a hydrocarbon, which contains low acoustic impedance, replaces a brine saturated zone which contains high acoustic impedance and is overlain by a shale rock which also contains high acoustic impedance, this results in a high reflection coefficient. And that brings me to our assignment. So in order to identify the bright spots, we use the seismic attributes. Seismic attribute is usually used, helps geophysicists and geoscientists to reveal patterns, features, and relationships in seismic data that would not be seen otherwise. So the seismic attributes that we use were RMS, which stands for root mean square amplitude, maximum amplitude, and minimum amplitude, reflection intensity. We used others such as envelope, dominant frequency, and many others, but these were the attributes that gave us pleasant results. So the bright spots are usually identified in areas of high amplitude zones. So regarding the methodology, we establish a good relationship between the seismic data and well-logged data, which allowed us to pick horizons in the reflection zones of interest. So that is my part. I would like to pass the floor to my colleague Ilyej Makwakwa. Thank you.
Hello there, my name is Ilyej Makwakwa, and I'll be presenting about the workflow that we follow in order to achieve the purpose of our study. Well, at the beginning of our project, we were given seismic data, well-log data, and also information about Ledang Barat. So we used Petal software version 2013 to study the seismic data as well as the well-log data that had been given to us. So one of the very first steps that we took in order to study Malay Basin was to import the seismic data into the Petal software, and after that we created a new well and we inputted the well location into the Petal software, and the well location was obtained for the information that had been given to us along with the seismic data and the well log data. Well, then we inserted a marker, and in order to do so we created a marker and we imported the marker data which had been given to us earlier. So we then created and we ran a check shot, and after that we took the seismic data and we established a good relationship between the seismic data and the well data to ensure that the horizons that we're picking, they were correct, right? So we established a relationship between the seismic data and the well log data in order to have the right position of the horizons. And the horizons that we picked, they lie between the top of group K and top of group M also. We chose horizons and we picked the horizons. After that, we used these horizons to create surface maps, which could later on be used by us to apply the surface attributes as well as the volume attributes. Well, under the seismic data to the seismic section, it was already possible to see some potential bright spots, but but they were not clear or as matching as they were after we applied the surface and volume attributes. After that, we came to the very purpose of our study, which was to analyze bright spots in the Malay Basin, right? So we used the surface attributes and the volume attributes to study how bright spots can be used as a tool to determine the hydrocarbon potential and even identify hydrocarbon potential in the Malay Basin.
Hello, my name is Malay. So, for the results and discussion, let me first say that our study areas comprises the top of group K to top of group M. So, throughout this project, we use several attributes, volume as well surface attribute. So, but we came out with these three surface attribute because are the one that best show the bright spot. So for the first one we have RMS amplitude. So as can you see, according to the chart color, the green, yellow, and orange colors, they show or they indicate the higher magnitude reflection. So this area we can consider as our bright spot. So, and for the second one, the maximum amplitude, we have two areas, or we have two zones where we have our bright spot, because they shows the higher magnitude reflection, where is B and C. And in the same surface, we apply the minimum amplitude. In this area, B and C also, they show the higher amplitude reflection. So that's all for this part.
So, as mentioned earlier by my colleague, we managed to identify bright spots by using the seismic amplitude attributes, and these bright spots they are found in the group K and group L of the Malay Basin. Hydrocarbon accumulations could be found in this group, as suggested by the amplitude anomalies that occur in group L and also in group K. The idea of having hydrocarbon in Malay Basin is also supported by the presence of very complex structures, and also a potential fault system that controls the trap system. Amplitude anomalies in the Malay Basin, they can be misleading due to the presence of very high amplitude response, such as coal and carbonaceous shells. So it's very important to have good knowledge of the petroleum systems in order to conclude the presence of hydrocarbon.
Hello once again. So as I mentioned before, throughout this project we tested several attributes, but we came out with RMS maximum and minimum attribute, because are the one that's best show the bright spot. So in conclusion, the bright spots identified and picked, they appeared as higher amplitude reflection. So that's the higher bright spots, the higher amplitude reflection. That's the lower the risk of dry hole. And also analyzing the bright spots depicted after application of attributes allow us to determine the hydrocarbon potential in Malay Basin. But we should know that not all bright spots is hydrocarbon indicator.